money cannot be its own purpose. It has to be something greater than that. When money becomes the purpose, and you ask that question, they say, my purpose is just to have more money. I want my money just to make more money, and that's it. Those are the most miserable people I've ever met. Welcome to Cowboys and Cufflinks. Jeff Mathies here, CEO of Mathies Financial Partners, and your host of the show. I'm joined today by Caleb Moore.
Good morning, everybody.
We've got a great show for you today, and let me set this up correctly. We started in finance a long time ago, and if there's anything that I've learned when it comes to money and how people treat it, the biggest thing I've learned is that money without a purpose it's pointless. It's completely pointless. And we're going to dig in a lot today about money and about families and about how those two have to be married together. I think it's critical that we do this because we've ran into a lot of people lately that it's almost like there is friction between those two conversations. You see, there's something out there called the no talk rule. And I feel like a lot of families are victim of this. And they do it to themselves. They work so hard every single day. They're going to work. They're trying to make a good living. They're saving money. And then when it comes to the money and how it is treated once it is saved, nobody likes to talk about it. And I don't understand that completely, but it's a big problem and it's something that we need to address.
It's a generational problem also. My grandparents never spoke about money. My parents spoke about money, but only the good side. I never knew they had a debt. So they were very, it just passes down. And I think the only way to break that is this current generation listening needs to break that no talk rule, or it'll just continue down to your kids and your grandkids.
Yeah. It's a scary thing. So let me push this a little bit further. We have so many people that we meet with, and in a way, I've been dodging this conversation for a while because it seems like it is so confrontational with people. I mean, you save, you're saving, you're grinding, you're pounding it out, you're trying to make a good living and save as much as you can for your family and for your kids. And for a lot of Americans, it never seems like there's enough. Everything is so expensive. You go to the grocery store and you don't put that much stuff in your basket. You go to check out and you're like $350. And you're like, what is going on here? Like, the world is an expensive place these days. Going even to put fuel in. I was telling Nikki yesterday, I've put $600 worth of fuel in my truck in 3 weeks. $600. And it frustrates me that the pump shuts off at 150 because it never gets to full. Like the F on my dash doesn't get to touch the needle very often anymore. And this is a problem. It's just everything is so expensive. And what happens is it's creating an even bigger void in people's lives when it comes to saving and planning for their future. So my hope today is that we can talk about family, we can talk about money, and we can talk about purpose, and then we can blend those things together and explain why this conversation has to be a fluid conversation amongst the families. Like, there's got to be some communication here. And I was asking Nikki this morning, I said, what do you think we should talk about today? And she says, I think you should talk about how in marriage, it can't be 50-50. That's not how successful marriages work. And we've talked about this a lot, but I've never really put that message out there to people. I learned this many, many years ago from a very popular preacher in Texas. And it stuck with me. And what he said was, when you are in a relationship, when you found your perfect person and you're married, you have to be willing to give 100% without any expectation from the other person in return. And for it to work, they have to be willing to put in 100% without any expectation from you. And that's the perfect marriage. That's how a marriage works. And he went on to explain that most marriages that end in divorce were 80% fulfilled. And they blew up the marriage searching for the 20% that was missing rather than just fixing that. And what's terrible is most divorces, they happen because of money.
There was a pretty big survey out 4 or 5 years ago talking about the causes of divorce, and I always thought it'd be infidelity or something similar. No, it was money. A vast majority of the time, it turned out to be money.
It's a terrible reason to get divorced. I mean, it's heartbreaking because you go to work, you spend your life trying to make money. People say money can't buy happiness. I disagree with that. I think the people who say money can't buy happiness only say that because they don't have any.
Or they're just not happy in general.
Maybe that's what it is. But I feel like when you have even a little bit of money, it can bring a lot of happiness. That's what puts food on the table. That's what pays the heating bill. That's what pays the water bill. I mean, it takes money to survive.
As long as it's not the money itself that's bringing you the happiness. If it's what the money can do for you, for your family, for the people you care about, for the world, absolutely it can bring happiness. But the money itself, that's just paper or digital currency or whatever you happen to be using. But it's the money is just money. It's what it can do for you that really strikes home.
And that actually brings me into the next point around this, which is the purpose. Now, Caleb, you and I ask people when we meet with them in the office, one of the very first questions in the first meeting that we ask people is, have you discovered your true purpose for money? And for us, when you're hearing that for the first time, maybe this right now is the first time you're hearing that, it might sound like a surface level question for you. That question is extremely deep. And I'll explain a little bit about why that question is so important and how it ties into family. So have you discovered your true purpose for money, that which is more important than money itself? We want to know before we help a family move in the right direction that the money isn't the focus, that the family is the focus. And the reason for that is we've been doing this a long time now. And the people we meet, when money is its purpose, its own purpose, money cannot be its own purpose. It has to be something greater than that. When money becomes the purpose, and you ask that question, they say, my purpose is just to have more money. I want my money just to make more money, and that's it. Those are the most miserable people I've ever met. They can have $100,000. They can have $10 million. It doesn't matter. When money is its own purpose, they are the most miserable people you will ever meet in life.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we've all seen it. People with relatively little, extremely happy with what they have. And we've seen people with a lot of money that are unhappy that they don't have more. So we've seen that a lot, both sides of it.
So for me, when I think about what is my purpose can go deep. Like my true purpose for life is empowerment. It's empowering others. And my true purpose for money is security, right? Empowerment for me leads to that security. And when I think about purpose, I live a purpose-driven life right now. Everything I do is to try to help other people. It's to be of service to others.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us your true purpose?
My true purpose?
Yeah. Last time we went through this exercise together.
Well, if I dug deep into the true purpose when it comes to empowerment, my true purpose when I talk about empowerment, it's empowering other people to empower other people. Like I want to create a movement that helps families across the country. I mean, our company is a decent size at this point. I want to be able to help advisors and help families to get to a point in their life where they're so happy and they're so fulfilled that they have no choice but to spread that message to others. And then that could, because honestly, when you help people discover purpose, it creates a level of happiness that I've never seen in any other scenario. And happiness is so much more powerful than fear and scarcity and hate. And you want me to prove that to you right now, Caleb? Listen to this. Here's how you know. If you take a room full of the most ticked off people you can find, they are just mad at each other and they're arguing like crazy. And then you walk in there with a baby and you set it in the middle of the floor and it starts belly laughing, there's no way the whole room won't start laughing with this baby. Happiness is powerful.
Same thing with a puppy. I don't care how bad a day you're having. A puppy crawls up in your face and licks you. Man, it doesn't get any better than that. So yeah, babies and puppies, agreed.
Happiness is powerful. It's a powerful emotion. It's contagious, and we need more of that in the world.
Maybe we should turn loose a bunch of happy babies and puppies in Congress.
I don't know if that's a great idea. I feel like half of those people would try to kick the puppy, and the other half would run. I don't know. It's probably bad. I can think of reasons why it's probably not going to work the way you think. Anyways, so back to purpose. So we try to teach people to live purpose-driven lives. And for me, this started around 2008, a little bit before that, 2007-ish actually, when I was trying to figure out how do I help all of these people in my community get over this hurdle of this constant dysfunction amongst the retirement and savings and investing industry for me. And I never in a million years thought that you could take purpose and tie it to money, and then at the same time tie it to people and the way they think about it, the relationship they have with it, and the relationship they have with each other, quite frankly. And it's powerful. I mean, it took a lot of training and a lot of work to get through the understanding of how to teach people how to have a healthy relationship with their money. I mean, people tend to focus so heavily on having a healthy relationship with their spouse that money, I think that's a big piece of the no talk rule, is it creates a lot of animosity and arguments when they talk about money. So they just don't talk about it. And whatever's there is there, and that's what they try to survive on. And, we got to break that cycle.
100%. And breaking that cycle doesn't happen on its own. That is never going to happen. You have to make the conscious decision that I'm going to be open with my family about money. And that's the only way to move forward. Otherwise, the no talk rule persists generationally.
And it's ugly.
It is. It is. I just got my grandson his first debit card. And to teach him that just because he has a card in his pocket doesn't mean he has money. And that can't start too early as far as talking to people about putting money in its place. And speaking about it openly with family is where you start. And for a whole lot of families, and my own included for quite a while, money was not talked about. It was fought about, even though we had plenty of it, until I started taking this very same training and realized, wow, this is where to put money.
I think that we should probably do a show at some point on all of the things that people can do for their kids and for their grandkids, because a lot of people, they just don't realize what's available out there. And I agree with you that one major way to get around this whole no talk rule is to just start talking about it and talk to your kids about it. I mean, for us, we talk to Cooper and our kids all the time. We talk about the importance of money. We talk about how you have to have a certain level of respect for it, because if you don't, you'll go negative on it and you'll end up carrying a tremendous amount of debt, which is something that's just running crazy in the world today amongst especially the young kids. I mean, you don't have to work very hard to get a credit card, and they'll give you an incredible limit. And I learned this when I was going through this process, and I was trying to figure out, how do you give your kids a little bit of a jump start on some of this stuff? And I realized I could put Cooper on one of my credit cards. I'm not going to give him the credit card, obviously. He's 10. But I could put him on there, and he gets credit for the traction that the card is getting, right? It's going on his deal. I bet you Cooper at 10 years old has an 800 credit score. I bet he does. And you save for him. You set up, if you have a business that's an S corporation, you can set up Roth accounts for your kids, and you can pay them, pay them whatever up to the maximum amount if you want. And it doesn't even trigger a tax return. You just stay under that limit. I mean, it's crazy some of the cool things you can do for your kids these days. The point is, you just got to start talking about it and teaching them.
Yeah, that's step one, is to talk to your kids. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I know people that have suddenly inherited large amounts of money that had no idea that it was coming. And that creates stress of its own. I mean, it's a nice stress to have, but you probably just lost somebody. But speak to people. let them know. Talk to your family. Be open around money. And it's amazing how that openness will spread away from just money.
Yeah.
If you can talk about the most uncomfortable thing on the options list to your kids or your spouse, everything else is easy.
Yeah. We used to teach a class called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And I think this class was so good, but it was tough to work it in. Everything got busy. COVID happened. I mean, just the world changed. But I think I want to rewrite this class, and I want to call it something a little different. Maybe I was thinking yesterday about this. We should call it like the sunny side of money, where we teach kids, what does it actually take to save $1 million? Now, granted, $1 million is not that much money these days. It's not going to go a long ways if you're trying to use that for income. It's not going to go a long ways, but it's still amazing to show a child, if you start saving a little bit at age 20 compared to a person who doesn't start saving even at age 30, the amount of time it takes to get to $1 million is substantially more difficult for the 30-year-old that started than the 20.
It's amazing. I mean, if you start an account for an infant, say you have a grandbaby or a baby, $25 a month. Not everyone, but most people can afford $25 a month in there. If that continues their whole life, they'll pay for their own college and retire a millionaire. And like you said, millionaire, that's $40,000 of income a year. That's not going to be much when an infant today is 65, but it shows you the power of compounding interest over time. And the younger you start, the better. Literally $25 a month.
Yeah. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about purpose, living a purpose-driven life, and blending purpose with money and blending that as a family, talking about it as a family. And if I could point one thing out to everybody, some people at this point, I mean, we're into this a little ways and haven't brought this up yet. If you have questions about how do you get on the same page as a family, my suggestion to you, the first step is you go to the Cowboys and Cufflinks website and you request the retirement readiness kit. Inside that kit, there's a tremendous amount of information for you. There's a test you can give yourself to figure out where are you at financially. And here's my suggestion today. There's a spot in there where you can tell us what brought you to the website. Do you have a question? What feedback do you want to provide to us? What I would suggest you put in there is help us discover our true purpose for money. And we will give you the opportunity to go through a very special class. It is invitation only, and it's called Discovering Your True Purpose for Money. And this class is for families. It's to help them figure out what's the most important thing to them and how do they get on the same page and have a healthy relationship with money. We'll show you what that opportunity looks like. Moving on, let's keep this train going. When I think about the people that we talk to so often, and we're talking about how do you discover that true purpose, it's not as simple as tell me the things that are important to you and then pick a couple. Like I feel like we do a lot of work in this area to get people where they need to be with the purpose conversation. And I would love to have that conversation with more people. I think that we have the ability to do it. The challenge that we have, ladies and gentlemen, is getting you to the point where you will start that conversation. And you've got to stop being scared of doing that. Like you can save others, you can save yourself. Like the family dynamic in our country is stressed right now. Everybody is stressed. You turn on the news, it's all negative. I mean, Nikki and I turned the news on the other morning, and we were like 5 minutes into Good Morning America, and we looked at each other and we were like, everything is bad news. There's no positive. They couldn't find one positive thing to talk about. It was just they were lining up all the things they were going to talk about on the show. And it was just like, we got to change the channel. And for a lot of you, I suggest you do the same thing. You need to change that channel.
Yeah, I had an experience this weekend. I took my grandson and his little buddy fishing, and I decided to drive up through the Aspen Acres burn fire to the lake. It's a geographical shortcut, but not a time shortcut because it's a rough road. But I saw the complete devastation from that fire, and I pulled up on top of the mountain, and there is a couple sitting outside a burned foundation, and they have a fifth wheel pulled up there, and the dogs are playing, and they're playing frisbee with the dogs and laughing. And I just had to stop, and I said, "I'm glad you're finding some time to have some fun." He goes, "Hey, we got out. The dogs got out. Everything else is just stuff." So you got to make that decision, and that is the first step. Just make that decision that you're going to find the best.
That fire was ugly. I'm glad it's, for the most part, behind some of us. There's a lot of families that are still dealing with that. And it seems like we've had such terrible weather. These fires are all over the country. We pulled up the Watch Duty app. You've done this?
Yeah.
And looked at the fires across the country. It's terrible.
North America looks like a campfire with
bad.
all the fire symbols. I mean, it's
even
just
with
everywhere.
the rain we've been getting
Yeah.
lately. It's just terrible. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Cowboys and Cufflinks show. Thanks for joining us. If you have questions, now normally we talk about a lot of finance stuff, and that's our niche, and we like to do that. But Cowboys and Cufflinks, the show itself, is built around the idea of family, freedom, and finance. And I find that we talk a lot about the finance stuff, but we don't work in enough about the other two. So today we're going to spend a ton of time talking about the family aspect, talking about finding purpose, and also about the freedom side, which I want to dive into right now. We are, as a country, we're at a point where people are actually starting to question the American dream, and if it's something that is in their future. And when you turn on the news and you're watching what's happening all over the country, for example, in Dearborn, Michigan, you're watching what's happening there, I can start to understand why people are questioning this. And I would warn you that if you're one of those folks who are scratching your heads and you're questioning the American dream and if it's in your future, I would say that you probably need to do a little bit of soul searching. And because here's the reality. The American dream is not a place that you get to. It is inside you. It's the way you think about the world. It's the drive that you have for yourself and for your family. The American dream is what you want it to be. It's not something someone else designs and builds for you. It's what you make of it. The cool thing about the American dream is you get to make the rules on what it looks like for you. Maybe your American dream is to have a big family, own property, and own a business. Maybe that's your American dream. If that's your American dream, go for it. That was my American dream, and I feel like I'm living it right now. But it starts with, what do you want that to look like for you? And I understand there's a ton of negativity out there, but there's some positive stuff out there as well. You just have to know where to look for it. Sometimes you got to create it yourself.
And sometimes you have to, always, you have to surround yourself with the right people. If you're surrounded by people who are negative about things in general, about the American dream, whatever, too focused on politics and are just bringing you down, shrink your circle. Put people in that circle that are excited to be alive and to be free people. That's step one for me, is to get the negativity out of my life and move forward with the people that you want to move forward with. That's the biggest step. Turn off the damn television.
Yeah. There's too much of that. There's just too much of it. We talked before about, I put a ton of stuff on social media about this too, about we used to be a country where the left and the right, we were pretty much in the center. The left was in the left, the right, pretty much in the center. Now they've gone so far in the opposite direction that they've created this massive void right in the middle. And now I feel like we're a country that if you've got people in your family that are on the other side of the aisle, as they say, you're not going to get along at Thanksgiving. And when did this happen to us? It's disgusting. You can't get along with your family because they believe a little bit different than you. And the reality is the belief systems as well. I mean, you don't have to go back that far where you could ask somebody, what's your perfect view of the country? And the answers were almost identical. They cared about the country moving in the right direction. They cared about freedom. They cared about patriotism. They loved the country. They loved everything about it, understanding that it's not perfect, but it's what we have to work with because we're free, and it can be awesome. Now you ask that same question, And it's just a massive hate speech with some of these people. And I'll never understand that. I'll never understand it. And it's crazy because you've got all these people screaming communism and socialism, and they're talking about this mess, but they don't ever want to go to the countries that are already going through that experiment. They want to try to bring that mess here. And if I could give anybody who's thinking that way a piece of advice, I will tell you, you are in for the fight of your life.
Amen on that. I mean, we just had a perfect experience with that. We had a Cuban immigrant that was our Uber driver.
Oh, man, he was cool.
After 2 days of absolute airport hell, we met the neatest guy and spoke very little English. And through Google Translate, we were able to ask him the question of, what do you think about the communism movement in the United States? And I won't repeat what he said because it's not arable, but
It's not PG.
It is not PG, but he was, passionate about the devastation that he saw from communism in Cuba.
Yeah. That might have been one of the best Uber rides we've ever taken. We were in the Denver airport. We finally made it to Denver. Our flight was canceled. Everything got screwed up the day before. We couldn't get back to Springs where we needed to go. So here we are in Denver. And the only way to get to Springs where all of our vehicles were at was to take an Uber. And after 2 days of intense mental training and 1 day of terrible flights, it was Uber Black double XL. I want whatever the most luxurious thing they have is, and I just need space and to get there. And when he showed up in that thing, and he was so helpful, so awesome, we started asking him the questions. It's like he came here 10 years ago and started his business. And he was talking about his mother and how she was still in Cuba and that she had no power. There was no internet. He couldn't FaceTime her. Communication was very tough. And when we asked him about, how does he feel about the communistic society through our translator app, he was like, Castro, no good.
Yep.
And then he said, Maduro, no good. And then he said it differently, like communismo or something like that. But it's basically communism, all bad.
All bad. And there was a few other words. He was very passionate about how he felt about that. And I have enough friends and clients that came from socialist and communist countries that will all tell you we don't understand why anyone would want that here because they came from it. And it's not a foreign influence. It's growing within our borders, which I can't even fathom it.
Yeah. So for me, when I think about that conversation, he told us he's got 6 children, 6 kids. His 6 kids speaks almost no English, and he is killing it with his business. And it's like, guys, if you're out there and you think you got struggles, some of that's head trash. Like, you can start a business with nothing in this country. It literally can cost you $0 to get off the ground in certain industries. Start your business and crush it. I mean, we coach a lot of people on how to do that. How do you structure your company? What documents do you have to have? What type of insurance do you have to have? If you've got a question about starting a business, you should definitely call us.
If you can bring value to the world, a portion of the world, then you have a company. That's how you make money in the world, is you bring value to people. If you can bring value, if you have an idea that will bring value to people, you have the first step to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's a good point. That brings up something that I've been thinking about a lot. One of the reasons why many businesses fail, one of the reasons is because when they're brainstorming, thinking about what type of business they want to create, what they do is they go, oh, I'm going to start this business over here. And when you ask them why they want to do that, the reason they tell you is because that's what they're interested in. It doesn't necessarily relate to what the community needs. So if you want to crush it in business from this jump, the first thing you have to do is you got to figure out, what does the community need that's lacking? And then you line those things out and you pick the ones that you like doing, that you enjoy doing. And then you start a business around that, and you're going to be successful because the community needed the service that you're going to provide. When you try to provide a service that the community doesn't know they need, it's a rough road. It's a rough road to get the message out.
And it could be something brand new. I mean, who knew we needed this bloody thing? Who knew the benefits and the heartache that little device can cause? That was just an idea. Let's build a phone without keys. I mean, that was just an idea. And we're not all Steve Jobs, but all of us have ideas that can help other people. You don't have to be a 180 IQ Rhodes Scholar to make a brilliant business. We're living proof of that.
You know what's interesting is most people, when they watch, they're on social media, they're seeing all these ads, they see all these big companies. Did you know that 99.9% of all the businesses in the United States are considered small businesses? 99.9%. So for those of you out there listening or watching the podcast here that think that it's an impossible feat for you to be able to start a business, understand you're in a pool of 99.9% of all the other businesses.
And I saw a study the other day, just a couple of weeks ago when we were down in training, that said 45% of the new jobs created last year were small businesses.
Wow.
It wasn't the big Walmarts and Targets and Boeings and those, it was small businesses that created 45% of the new jobs last year.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference in the world.
That's incredible. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Cowboys and Cufflinks show. We hope you have enjoyed it. We would sure love to have a conversation with you if you want to talk about anything we covered today, especially having purpose in your family and creating a purpose-driven life. We can show you how that relates to investing to make sure that's all teed up correctly. Just go to the Cowboys and Cufflinks website. You can request a phone call with us. You can set a 15-minute phone call right there on the website. You can request the retirement readiness kit, which I think you all should do. And you can also send us a message if you like. If you've got a simple question, our goal is to help you get your questions answered just to prevent you from making bad choices with all the mess that's out there in the investing and retirement planning world. Again, this has been Cowboys and Cufflinks. We'll see you down the road. Thanks for joining me today on Cowboys and Cufflinks. I'm Jeff Mathies, CEO of Mathies Financial Partners, Texas-raised, hospitality first, and focused on helping individuals and families find the perfect financial fit and move toward their American dream with clarity and purpose. If today brought you clarity or raised a question you've been wanting to answer, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. To learn more or take the next step, visit cowboysandcufflinks.com. This has been Cowboys and Cufflinks with Jeff Mathies. We'll see you down the road.